Captain Han Wu stood at the observation deck of the diplomatic vessel Harmony's Edge, watching the stars drift past in the endless black of space. 300 years had passed since humans first joined the Galactic Council, and in all that time they had never started a single war. This fact made Han Wu proud, even if other species sometimes whispered that humans were broken for creatures from a death world. Earth was known throughout the galaxy as one of the most dangerous planets ever discovered. A world where storms could level cities, where the ground shook without warning, where countless creatures spent their lives trying to kill each other. Yet somehow the beings that crawled out of that nightmare had become the galaxy's peacekeepers. "Captain, we're receiving a priority transmission from the Council," announced Commander Yumin from the bridge. Her voice carried the calm professionalism that marked all human officers. After centuries of proving they belonged among civilized species, humans had learned to keep their emotions in check. Han Wu made his way to the bridge, his boots clicking softly on the metal floor. The Harmony's Edge was a beautiful ship, built for diplomacy rather than war. Its hull gleamed white and silver, and its weapons were designed for defense only. Like all human vessels, it carried enough firepower to defend itself, but nothing more. The galaxy appreciated this restraint. "Put it through," Han Wu said, settling into his captain's chair. The main screen flickered to life, showing the familiar blue-skinned face of Counselor Velnara, one of the Altarian representatives. "Captain Han Wu, we need your assistance immediately," Velnara began without preamble. "We've lost contact with New Busan Colony. Their last transmission was unusual." Han Wu felt his stomach tighten. New Busan was one of the newer human colonies, a peaceful farming world that supplied food to 3 different star systems. 12 million humans lived there, along with several thousand refugees from other species that humans had taken in over the years. "What kind of unusual?" Han Wu asked. "See for yourself," Velnara replied. The screen changed to show a recording. The face that appeared belonged to Administrator Park Hyo, a middle-aged woman who had run New Busan for the past 15 years. She looked terrified. "This is Administrator Park Hyo of New Busan Colony," the recording began. "We have unknown ships in our system. They're not responding to any of our communications. They're just sitting there, watching us." The image flickered with static. "The ships are wrong somehow. They don't look like anything in our databases. They seem to bend space around them." More static. "If anyone receives this, tell my family I—" The transmission cut off completely. Han Wu stared at the blank screen for a long moment. In 3 centuries of human expansion, colonies sometimes faced pirates or natural disasters, but they had never simply gone silent like this. "When was this transmission received?" he asked. 72 hours ago, Velnara replied. "We've sent probe ships, but they found nothing. The system appears empty." "Empty?" Commander Yumin stepped forward. "What do you mean, empty?" "No colonies. No ships, no debris. It's as if New Busan never existed." Han Wu felt a chill run down his spine. 12 million people didn't just disappear. "We'll investigate immediately. Any other ships you want us to coordinate with?" "The Council is assembling a joint task force, but they won't be ready for another week. We need someone there now, and humans have the best search and rescue teams in the galaxy." This was true. When other species encountered disasters, they called humans. When pirates attacked trade routes, humans volunteered to patrol them. When unknown diseases threatened entire worlds, human doctors were the first to arrive. The galaxy had learned to depend on human kindness. After the transmission ended, Han Wu turned to his crew. Dr. Li Hana, their chief xenobiologist, was already pulling up star charts on her tablet. Engineer Kodan was running diagnostics on their sensors. These people were the best the human fleet had to offer, and they had volunteered for this mission without hesitation. "Doctor, what do you think we're dealing with?" Han Wu asked. Dr. Li Hana shook her head slowly. "I've never heard of technology that could make an entire planet disappear. The energy requirements alone would be staggering. We're talking about moving a world with 12 million people on it. Could it be some kind of natural phenomenon?" Engineer Kodan suggested. "A black hole, maybe? Or some kind of space-time anomaly?" Administrator Park mentioned ships, Commander Yumin pointed out. "That suggests intelligence behind whatever happened." Han Wu nodded. "Set course for the New Busan system. Maximum speed." As the Harmony's Edge jumped to faster-than-light travel, Han Wu found himself thinking about humanity's place in the galaxy. For 300 years, humans had worked hard to prove they were more than the violent savages that their homeworld might suggest. They had been patient, diplomatic, and generous. They had shared their technology, offered aid to struggling species, and never demanded anything in return. Other species often commented on this. The Altarians called humans the gentle giants. The insectoid Cricks referred to them as the broken warriors. Even the proud hegemony admitted that humans were surprisingly civilized for Deathworlders. Wu had always taken pride in these descriptions. Humans had chosen to be better than their world had made them. They had proven that intelligence and compassion could overcome the brutal instincts that Earth had beaten into their ancestors. But now, staring at the stars rushing past his ship, Han Wu felt something stirring in his chest. Something that humans had spent 3 centuries learning to control. 12 million people from New Busan were missing, and someone or something was responsible. The Harmony's Edge continued its journey through space, carrying its crew toward a mystery that would change everything. Behind them, Earth continued its slow rotation, the blue and green world that had forged humanity in fire and blood. Ahead lay questions that would test everything humans believed about themselves. Han Wu didn't know it yet, but this mission would be the beginning of the end of humanity's age of gentleness. The galaxy was about to learn why Earth was called a death world, and why the creatures that survived it had spent so long proving they were more than what their planet had made them. For now, though Captain Han Wu sat in his chair and watched the stars, hoping they would find New Busan's people alive and safe. Hope was a very human thing after all. The Harmony's Edge dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of what should have been the New Busan system. Captain Han Wu stared at the main screen in disbelief. Where a yellow star and 6 planets should have been, there was only empty space filled with a strange, shimmering energy that made his eyes water to look at directly. Scanner readings. Kodan, Han Wu said quietly. Engineer Kodan's hands flew over his console, his face growing more confused with each passing second. Captain, this doesn't make sense. I'm detecting no stellar mass, no planetary bodies, no debris field. But there are energy readings I've never seen before. Dr. Lee Hana moved to her own station, her instruments designed to detect biological signatures across vast distances. I'm not picking up any life signs, but these energy patterns... She paused, adjusting her equipment. They're not natural. Someone or something did this. Commander Yu Min joined them at the sensor station. Could the entire system have been destroyed? No, Kodan shook his head. When stars go supernova, they leave behind specific signatures. When planets are destroyed, we find asteroid fields and debris. This is different. It's like the system was simply removed. Han Wu felt a cold knot forming in his stomach. In all his years as a starship captain, he had seen many terrible things. Pirates who murdered entire crews for their cargo, diseases that wiped out colonies in days, natural disasters that could crack planets in half. But he had never seen anything like this. Take us closer, he ordered. Full sensor sweep. I want to know what happened here. As the Harmony's Edge moved deeper into the empty space where New Busan should have been, the strange energy readings grew stronger. Kodan worked frantically at his console, trying to make sense of the data. Captain, he called out suddenly, I'm detecting something. Very faint, but it's there. Some kind of dimensional residue. Dimensional? Dr. Lee Hana looked up from her own readings. As in other dimensions? Parallel realities? I think so. The energy patterns suggest that space-time itself was manipulated here. Badly manipulated. Han Wu had heard of dimensional technology before, but only in theoretical discussions. The mathematics alone were beyond most species' understanding, and the energy requirements were thought to be impossible to achieve. Are you saying someone moved an entire star system to another dimension? He asked. It's the only explanation that fits the data, Kodan replied. But Captain, the technology required for something like this, it would be far beyond anything in our databases. Commander Yu Min was studying the tactical displays. Could this be some kind of weapon? A way to make enemy systems simply disappear? The thought sent chills through everyone on the bridge. If someone had developed the ability to erase entire star systems at will, no world in the galaxy would be safe. Let's not jump to conclusions, Dr. Lee Hana said, though her voice carried uncertainty. We need more information before we can determine what happened here. Han Wu was about to respond when their communications officer, Lieutenant Bei Rin, called out from her station. Captain, I'm picking up a very weak signal. It's coming from nowhere. Explain, Han Wu said, moving to her station. The signal appears to be originating from the same location where New Busan's sun should be, but there's nothing there. It's like the signal is coming from empty space itself. Can you clean it up? Bayron worked at her console for several minutes, her fingers dancing over the controls. Slowly, a voice began to emerge from the static. It was faint and distorted, but unmistakably human. Help us. Trapped between... Can't get out. They're experimenting on us. The voice faded back into static, but the words hit the bridge crew like a physical blow. Someone from New Busan was alive, but trapped somewhere they couldn't escape from. Can you get more? Han Wu asked urgently. Bayron tried for another 10 minutes, but the signal was too weak and too damaged. Whatever was transmitting it was far away, in a place that their equipment could barely reach. Dr. Li Hana was studying her readings with new intensity. If the colony was moved to another dimension, they might still be alive but existing in a space parallel to our own. That would explain why the signal is so weak. But who would do such a thing? Commander Yumin asked. And why? Kodan had been running the energy signatures through the ship's databases, searching for any matches. Suddenly, his console began beeping urgently. Captain, I found something. The energy patterns match theoretical profiles for technology used by the Veltar. A silence fell over the bridge. Every species in the galaxy knew about the Veltar, though most believed they were extinct. Ancient records described them as masters of dimensional manipulation, able to exist in multiple realities at once. They had disappeared from known space over 50,000 years ago. The Veltar have been gone for millennia, Dr. Li Hana said slowly. Every archaeological expedition has concluded they died out naturally. Maybe they didn't die out, Han Wu said grimly. Maybe they just went somewhere else. Before anyone could respond, their long-range communications array came to life. Admiral Kim Tae's face appeared on the screen, and Han Wu could see immediately that something was very wrong. Captain Han Wu, we have a crisis, the Admiral began without preamble. 2 more human colonies have gone silent in the past 6 hours. New Seoul and New Incheon. Their last transmissions mentioned strange ships in their systems. Han Wu felt the deck seemed to shift beneath his feet. New Seoul was home to 50 million people. New Incheon housed 30 million. If the same thing that happened to New Busan had happened to them, do we have any idea who's responsible? Han Wu asked. Negative. But Captain, there's something else. The Galactic Council is calling an emergency session. They want representatives from all species to discuss the disappearances. The way Admiral Kim Tae said disappearances suggested he didn't think the Council was taking this seriously enough. Admiral, we found evidence that the Veltar might be involved. Kim Tae's expression darkened. That's what I was afraid of. Captain, return to Nexus Prime immediately. The Council needs to hear what you've discovered. As the transmission ended, Han Wu looked around at his crew. These were good people, trained to handle crisis situations with calm professionalism, but he could see fear in their eyes now. Fear for the millions of humans who had simply vanished, and fear for what might happen next. Set course for Nexus Prime, he ordered. Maximum speed. As the Harmony's Edge prepared to jump back to faster-than-light travel, Han Wu took one last look at the empty space where New Busan should have been. Somewhere in the dimensional void, 12 million people were trapped and calling for help. And if the Veltar were truly responsible, then humanity was facing an enemy that could erase entire worlds without leaving a trace. The age of gentle diplomacy was about to be tested in ways that no one in the galaxy was prepared for. The Galactic Council chambers on Nexus Prime had never felt more tense. Ambassador Park Jin stood at the central podium, surrounded by representatives from hundreds of species. The vast circular room buzzed with nervous energy as delegates whispered among themselves in dozens of different languages. Park Jin had served as humanity's chief ambassador for 20 years. He was known throughout the galaxy as a patient man, someone who could find compromise even in the most difficult situations. Today, however, his usual calm demeanor was strained. Honored delegates, Park Jin began, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber's advanced acoustics. In the past week, we have lost contact with 3 human colonies. That represents over 70 million people who have simply vanished. A murmur ran through the assembled delegates. 70 million was a significant number even by galactic standards. We have evidence that these disappearances are not natural disasters or pirate attacks, Park Jin continued. Our investigation suggests the involvement of technology that can manipulate space-time itself, possibly connected to the ancient Veltar civilization. Counselor Velnara of the Altarians leaned forward in her seat. Ambassador Park Jin, while we sympathize with humanity's loss, are we certain these colonies haven't simply chosen to cease communications? Perhaps they're declaring independence? Park Jin felt a flash of anger but kept his voice level. Counselor, 12 million people from New Busan sent a distress signal before vanishing. We detected dimensional residue at the site where their star system used to be. This was not a choice. Dimensional residue can occur naturally, interjected Counselor Zephron of the Hegemony. Solar flares, quantum storms, collapsed warp fields from old starships. There are many explanations. Not explanations that remove entire star systems, Park Jin replied. We have recorded evidence of the Veltar energy signatures. This caused a stir among the delegates. The ancient Veltar were the subject of myths and legends throughout the galaxy. Most species considered them extinct for good reason. Counselor Thresh of the Crix Collective clicked his mandibles together in what passed for laughter among his people. The Veltar? Ambassador, with respect, your people are known for their active imaginations. Perhaps the stress of these losses is affecting your judgment? Park Jin's hands clenched at his sides, but he maintained his diplomatic composure. We have sensor data, energy readings, and transmission fragments. This is not imagination. Even if these readings are accurate, said Counselor Velnara, we must consider all possibilities before taking drastic action. The Council should form a committee to investigate these claims thoroughly. A committee? Park Jin's voice rose slightly. While committees investigate, more colonies could disappear. More people could die. Ambassador Park Jin, Counselor Zephron's voice carried a hint of warning. The Council operates on careful deliberation, not panic. Your species' emotional responses are well documented, but they should not drive galactic policy. Around the chamber, other delegates nodded in agreement. Humans were known for their emotional nature, their tendency to rush to action when their people were threatened. The galaxy appreciated human passion when it came to rescue missions and humanitarian aid, but in matters of interstellar politics, cooler heads were preferred. Park Jin looked around the chamber and realized with growing horror that the Council wasn't taking this seriously. To them, this was just another crisis that could be managed through proper procedures and careful committee work. Honored delegates, he said, trying one more time. We're talking about technology that can erase entire worlds. If the Veltar have returned, every species in this chamber is at risk. If they have returned, emphasized Counselor Thresh. You're asking us to mobilize fleets and declare a galactic emergency based on theoretical readings about a species that disappeared 50,000 years ago. The debate continued for hours. Some delegates supported forming an investigation committee. Others suggested sending diplomatic missions to search for the missing colonies. A few even proposed that the human colonies might have been attacked by pirates using new technology. As the discussions dragged on, Park Jin received a priority message on his personal communicator. His aide, Counselor Robin, had urgent news from Admiral Kim Tae. The message was brief and devastating. 2 more human colonies had vanished. New Jeju and New Gwangju. Another 60 million people gone without a trace. Park Jin stood up abruptly, interrupting a lengthy speech about the need for proper procedures. Delegates, I've just received word that 2 more human colonies have disappeared. We now have over 100 million missing people. The chamber fell silent. Even the most skeptical delegates seemed shaken by this news. This proves our point, said Counselor Velnara after a long pause. We need to move carefully. If there truly is a threat capable of such destruction, we cannot afford to provoke it with rash actions. What do you suggest we do? Park Jin asked, his patience finally beginning to crack. Continue forming committees while our people disappear? We suggest you remember that humanity is part of a larger galactic community. Counselor Zephron replied coldly. Individual species problems cannot be allowed to drive policy for everyone. That was when something changed in Park Jin's expression. The other delegates had seen him angry before, frustrated before, even desperate before, but they had never seen him look the way he did now. Individual species problems, Park Jin repeated slowly. Is that what this is to you? Ambassador, Counselor Velnara began, we understand your emotional investment in this situation, but Our emotional investment, Park Jin interrupted. Yes, I suppose we are rather emotional about our people being kidnapped and tortured by dimensional parasites. The chamber was completely silent now. Park Jin's voice had taken on a quality that made several delegates unconsciously lean back in their seats. For 300 years, Park Jin continued, humanity has played by your rules. We've been patient. We've been diplomatic. We've proven over and over that we're more than the savage Deathworlders you expected us to be. He walked slowly around the central podium, his eyes meeting those of delegates around the chamber. When the Altarian plague threatened to wipe out your colonies, who volunteered to find a cure? When hegemony ships were attacked by pirates in the Outer Rim, who patrolled those space lanes for free? When the Krik's collective faced starvation after their harvest worlds failed, who shared their food supplies without asking for payment? Several delegates shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Humans, Park Jin answered his own questions. We did those things because we chose to be better than what our world made us. We chose to prove that intelligence and compassion could overcome the brutal instincts that Earth beat into our ancestors. He stopped walking and faced the chamber, directly. But you've mistaken our choice for weakness. You think because we choose kindness, we're incapable of anything else. You think because we prefer diplomacy, we have no other options. The silence in the chamber was now complete. Even the translation devices seemed to have stopped their quiet humming. Today, honored delegates, you're going to learn something that we hoped you would never have to know. You're going to learn why Earth is called a death world. You're going to learn what happens when the children of that world stop playing kind, Park. Jin gathered his papers and prepared to leave the podium. The human delegation withdraws from council authority in this matter. We'll handle the Veltar threat ourselves. We tried to show you we were more than our world made us. You mistook our kindness for weakness. Today you remember why Earth is called a death world. As Park Jin walked out of the chamber, his footsteps echoing in the silence, every delegate in the room felt a chill that had nothing to do with the chamber's temperature. They had just witnessed something that would be remembered in galactic history, the moment humanity stopped asking for permission. Admiral Kim Tae stood in the command center of the human fleet headquarters, watching as screens around the room lit up with incoming reports. It had been only 12 hours since Ambassador Park Jin's dramatic exit from the Galactic Council, and the transformation was already beginning. Admiral, the Seoul Defense Platform is reporting ready status, announced Commander Lim Jun from his station. All weapon systems are online and targeting systems are fully operational. Kim Tae nodded grimly. The Seoul Defense Platform had been listed in galactic records as a research station studying deep space phenomena. In reality, it was a fortress capable of destroying entire fleets, hidden in plain sight for over 2 centuries. What about the Busan station? Kim Tae asked. Also ready, sir. The particle beam arrays are charging as we speak. Around the galaxy, similar reports were coming in. Human research stations were revealing their true nature. Human exploration vessels were suddenly bristling with weapons that violated several galactic treaties. Human agricultural colonies were activating defense systems that could repel invasion fleets. Dr. Song Yi, the lead scientist from the Human War College, approached Kim Tae's command platform. She carried a tablet containing information that would have terrified the Galactic Council if they had known it existed. Admiral, the dimensional anchor weapons are ready for deployment, she reported. We've completed testing on the captured Veltar technology from the new Busan investigation. How many ships can we equip? Kim Tae asked. 50 vessels with full anchor capability, 200 more with limited dimensional interference systems. It should be enough to prevent the Veltar from simply vanishing when we find them. Kim Tae studied the tactical displays showing the positions of human fleets throughout the galaxy. For 3 centuries, these ships had been scattered across space, officially engaged in peaceful missions, exploration, trade, scientific research, humanitarian aid. The galaxy had grown comfortable with human ships being everywhere, had stopped paying attention to their true capabilities. That was about to change. General Oh Hyun's forces are in position near the Outer Rim, reported Commander Lim Jun. His deep strike teams have confirmed Veltar energy signatures in 3 different systems. Any sign of the missing colonies? Faint dimensional echoes. The colonies are still out there, but they're being held in some kind of parallel space. General Oh Hyun believes he can track them back to their source. Kim Tae felt a grim satisfaction. Humanity had spent 300 years preparing for a war they hoped would never come. They had developed weapons in secret, trained armies that officially didn't exist, and built a military infrastructure disguised as peaceful civilian operations. The galaxy had seen humans as gentle giants, reluctant warriors who preferred diplomacy to force. They had no idea that every human cultural exchange program had been an intelligence-gathering operation. Every trade mission had mapped strategic weaknesses. Every scientific expedition had scouted potential battlefields. "Admiral," called Captain Nam Su from across the command center, "we're receiving a transmission from Captain Han Wu. The Harmony's Edge has made contact with Veltar forces." The main screen switched to show Han Wu's face. Behind him, his bridge crew worked frantically at their stations. The diplomatic vessel that had seemed so peaceful just days ago was now revealed to be something very different. "Admiral, we've found them," Han Wu reported. "The Veltar have a forward base in the Kepler system. They're holding captured populations in dimensional prisons while they conduct experiments." "What kind of experiments?" Kim Tae asked, though he dreaded the answer. "They're draining life force," Han Wu replied grimly, "slowly extracting the consciousness and energy from living beings while keeping them aware of what's happening. The people from New Busan are alive, but they're being tortured on a scale I can't even comprehend." Around the command center, human officers felt something ancient and terrible stir in their chests. These were people trained from birth to be civilized, to solve problems through discussion and compromise. But they were also the children of Earth, the descendants of creatures that had survived on a world that tried to kill them every single day for millions of years. "Can you rescue them?" Kim Tae asked. "Not with conventional weapons. The Veltar exist partially outside normal space-time. But Dr. Song Yi's dimensional anchors should work. We can force them to fight us in normal space." Kim Tae turned to Dr. Song Yi, who was already working at her tablet. "How long to equip the Harmony's Edge with full anchor systems?" 6 hours, she replied. "But Admiral, there's something else. We've detected a massive Veltar construct deeper in the system. It's not just a base, it's a factory. They're building more dimensional weapons." The implications hit everyone in the command center at once. The Veltar weren't just experimenting on captured humans. They were preparing for a larger campaign, possibly against the entire galaxy. "How long before they're ready to expand their operations?" Kim Tae asked. "Based on energy readings, possibly days, maybe weeks. Not long." Kim Tae made a decision that would echo through galactic history. "Send word to all human fleets. Operation Homecoming is now active. We're going to war." Throughout human space, the response was immediate. Ships that had been disguised as civilian vessels began revealing their true armaments. Space stations that had appeared to be research facilities started broadcasting military identification codes. Colonies that had seemed defenseless suddenly bristled with weapon emplacements that had been hidden underground for centuries. Commander Lim Jun was coordinating with human forces across the galaxy. "Admiral, we have 300 combat vessels moving toward Veltar positions. General Oh Hyun's deep strike teams are ready to begin dimensional infiltration missions." "What about civilian populations?" Kim Tae asked. "Are the colonies secure?" "All human worlds are now on high alert. The defense systems are online and ready. Any Veltar attempts to capture more colonies will meet serious resistance." Dr. Song Yi looked up from her tablet. "Admiral, I'm reading massive energy spikes from Veltar positions throughout the galaxy. They're accelerating their timeline." On the main screen, tactical displays showed Veltar forces beginning to move. Energy signatures that had been dormant for centuries were suddenly active. The ancient enemy was preparing to reveal itself fully. "Then we stop playing defense," Kim Tae declared. "Send word to Captain Han Wu. Begin the assault on the Kepler base. Show the Veltar what happens when you threaten Earth's children." As orders went out across human space, something fundamental changed in the galaxy's balance of power. For 3 centuries, humans had been the helpful neighbors, the species that others could depend on for aid and support. They had proven over and over that they were civilized, peaceful, and generous. But civilization was a choice, not a weakness. Peace was something they preferred, not something they were limited to. And generosity came from strength, not from inability to do otherwise. The Veltar had made the mistake of thinking that because humans chose kindness, they were incapable of anything else. They were about to learn that the species that had crawled out of Earth's nightmare had never forgotten how to fight. They had simply chosen not to until someone gave them a reason. The age of gentle humanity was ending. The age of unleashed Deathworlders was about to begin. The battle for the Kepler system began at exactly 0347 Galactic Standard Time, and it was unlike anything the galaxy had ever witnessed. Captain Han Wu watched from the bridge of the Harmony's edge as the human fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel in perfect formation. 200 ships that had spent centuries disguised as peaceful vessels now revealed their true nature. Weapons that had been hidden for generations emerged from concealed compartments. Armor plating that had been disguised as civilian hull modifications suddenly gleamed with military purpose. Dimensional anchors are active, reported Dr. Song Yi from her new position as weapons coordinator. The Veltar can't phase shift away from us now. In the distance, the Veltar construct hung in space like a twisted nightmare. It was massive, easily the size of a small moon, and it seemed to bend reality around itself. Parts of it existed in normal space, while other sections flickered between dimensions. Energy readings from the structure were off every scale the humans had. Life sign readings? Han Wu asked. Confirmed, replied Dr. Li Hana. I'm detecting millions of conscious beings trapped inside that thing. Not just humans from our missing colonies, but creatures from dozens of different species. Some of the signatures are centuries old. The magnitude of Veltar crimes was staggering. They hadn't just been targeting humans. They had been kidnapping and torturing sentient beings from across the galaxy for hundreds of years, possibly thousands. Admiral Kim Tae to all ships, came the transmission from the fleet command vessel. Remember, our priority is rescue. Disable Veltar forces and capture their technology. We need to understand how to reverse what they've done to our people. Admiral, Han Wu responded. We're reading massive energy buildups from the construct. They're preparing some kind of weapon. All ships evasive maneuvers. General Oh Hyun, begin your infiltration. Throughout the fleet, human ships began moving with a precision that shocked even their own crews. These vessels hadn't been designed just for diplomacy and exploration. They had been built by people who remembered that space was dangerous, that peace was precious because it was fragile, and that sometimes the only way to protect the innocent was to be prepared for war. General Oh Hyun's deep strike teams were already in motion. Using captured Veltar technology modified by human engineering, small groups of soldiers phased between dimensions, appearing inside the Veltar construct where normal ships couldn't follow. This is Strike Team Alpha, came Oh Hyun's voice over the communications array. We're inside the construct. What we're seeing here, it's worse than we imagined. Han Wu could hear the strain in the general's voice. Oh Hyun was a veteran of dozens of rescue operations, a man who had seen the worst that the galaxy could offer. If something was shocking him, it had to be truly horrific. Elaborate, Admiral Kim Tae ordered. They're not just draining life force, Oh Hyun reported. They're studying it. Cataloging it. They have beings from species we've never even heard of, some that might be thousands of years old. This isn't just feeding, it's research. Commander Lim Jun was coordinating the main fleet assault. His ships moved through space like predators, using weapons that the galaxy had never seen before. Particle beams that could tear holes in reality itself, missiles that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously, defense fields that turned enemy energy weapons back on their users. The Veltar are trying to retreat, Lim Jun reported. Their main ships are attempting to phase shift. Not today, Dr. Song Yi said grimly. She activated the dimensional anchor network, and across the fleet, specialized weapons began projecting fields that locked space-time itself. The Veltar ships, trapped in normal space for the first time in millennia, suddenly found themselves vulnerable. The battle was vicious but one-sided. The Veltar had spent so long relying on their ability to exist between dimensions that they had forgotten how to fight enemies who could force them into normal space. Human weapons, designed by people who understood that the universe was hostile and that survival required being prepared for anything, tore through Veltar defenses. Strike Team Beta reporting, came another voice from inside the construct. We've found the control systems for the dimensional prisons. There are millions of beings trapped in here, Admiral. Millions. Can you free them? Kim Tae asked, working on it. But sir, some of these prison signatures are so old. We might be looking at beings who were captured before humans even left Earth. The scope of Veltar atrocities was beyond comprehension. They had been preying on the galaxy for thousands of years, taking entire populations and keeping them trapped in dimensional hells while slowly draining their life essence. Captain Nam Su's voice crackled over the communications array. Admiral, we found their homeworld. The dimensional tracking leads to a system about 50 light-years from here. It's not just a planet. It's an entire solar system converted into some kind of massive life-harvesting operation. Han Wu felt something cold settle in his stomach. How many beings are we talking about? Hundreds of millions. Maybe billions. Species from across the galaxy. Some extinct everywhere else. They've been keeping entire civilizations alive just to torture them. The revelation hit the human fleet like a physical blow. They had thought they were rescuing their own missing colonies. Instead, they had discovered a crime so vast, so ancient, that it dwarfed anything in galactic history. All ships, Admiral Kim Tae's voice carried across the fleet with deadly calm. We're going to end this, not just for our people, but for every being the Veltar have ever taken. Today, we settle a debt that's thousands of years overdue. The assault on the Veltar homeworld took 72 hours, not because the enemy was particularly difficult to defeat, but because the humans were careful. Every prison had to be located and unlocked. Every dimensional trap had to be disarmed. Every tortured being had to be rescued. Commander Jiang Min led the reality anchor ships that locked the entire Veltar solar system in normal space. Colonel Park Soo coordinated dimensional warfare units that fought battles across multiple planes of existence simultaneously. Engineer Ko Dan worked with captured Veltar technology to reverse centuries of dimensional manipulation. When it was over, the Veltar civilization was finished. Their ships captured, their technology seized, their leaders brought to justice. More importantly, billions of beings who had been trapped in dimensional hells for centuries were finally free. Captain Han Wu stood on the bridge of the Harmony's Edge 3 days after the final battle, watching as refugee ships carried rescued populations back to their homeworlds. Many of these beings were from species thought extinct. Some were from civilizations that had been missing for so long that their own people had forgotten they existed. Final casualty reports, Commander Yu Min announced. Human losses: 43 ships damaged, 12 ships destroyed, 8,000 personnel wounded, 1,500 killed. Enemy losses: complete destruction of Veltar military capability, capture of all leadership, liberation of approximately 2 billion enslaved beings. Han Wu nodded solemnly. 1,500 humans had died in the operation, but they had saved billions. It was the kind of mathematics that military leaders understood, even if it didn't make the losses any easier to bear. Captain, Dr. Lee Hanna called from her station. We're receiving a transmission from the Galactic Council. The main screen activated to show Counselor Velnara, but she looked very different from the last time they had spoken. Gone was the condescending tone, the assumption that humans needed guidance from more civilized species. Captain Han Wu, she began carefully. The Council wishes to express its gratitude for humanity's actions against the Veltar threat. We had no idea the scope of what was happening. No, Han Wu replied quietly. You didn't. Because you weren't listening when we tried to tell you. There was a long pause. The Council would like to discuss new security arrangements. Given humanity's evident capabilities, we believe a more collaborative approach would be beneficial. Han Wu almost smiled. Collaborative was diplomatic language for, please don't do to us what you just did to the Veltar. The human government will consider any reasonable proposals, he replied. But Counselor, there's something you need to understand. We didn't reveal our capabilities because we wanted to conquer anyone. We revealed them because someone needed to be saved. He looked directly into the camera. We are still the same people we were a week ago. We still prefer diplomacy to force. We still choose cooperation over conquest. But we will never again allow bureaucracy and committee meetings to delay action when innocents are suffering. The transmission ended, and Han Wu turned back to his crew. These people had just participated in the largest rescue operation in galactic history. They had saved billions of lives and ended a threat that had plagued the galaxy for millennia. More importantly, they had proven something that humans had always known, but had never been forced to demonstrate. That choosing peace didn't mean being weak. That preferring kindness didn't mean being helpless, and that the greatest strength came from knowing when to be gentle and when to be terrible. The galaxy would remember this day for centuries to come. They would remember it as the day humanity stopped playing kind and in doing so, showed exactly